Hi, my name is Tom Sivek and I'm the Manager of Emergency Response. Today we're going to talk about emergency planning. We're going to look at 4 key areas. The first is decision making. In any emergency plan, we need to make sure that we have a decision making process that's going to ensure the safety and security of the participants. So in creating a plan, that plan needs to identify who the decision makers are, how they make the decisions, and then when they make those decisions or those triggers. Which leads us to the next piece, which is having a timeline. In any emergency plan, ensuring that you have timelines associated with the risks will ensure that all participants' safety and security are taken into consideration. Regardless of the race, big or small, the timeline in an endurance race, all of this is scalable to the race itself. Plans can be very short, and it can identify the clear, concise timelines and decisions that need to be made that can be encompassed very, very, very simply. The other thing taking into consideration is weather hazards. In the United States, we have severe storms, and we have to take those into considerations. So timelines, we always will assimilate the decision making to timelines, and we have to appropriately plan for that. However, the other risks in weather have to be taken into consideration. If it's a hot day or a cold day, we want to make sure that the participants' safety and security is taken into consideration. So, when we're looking at a hot day, we need to make sure our triggers are pulled early, whether that's ensuring more water or fluids at a station, whether it's communicating when they're at the start line, when everybody's there, to let them know it's going to be a hot day and the participants need to hydrate appropriately, or making sure that there's additional fluids at the finish line. Those are triggers that can be established when dealing with a high heat event. At the same time, communications is a key. If they know it's going to be hot days before the event, being able to communicate that out, be it via email or the website or their social media opportunities, or even when they're picking up their packet, they will make sure that they can hone in on the risks that are associated with that event. And the same thing is with cold days too. Regardless of that aspect, putting measures in place will ensure that the participants are ready for that race day. Utilizing a color-coded system, such as flags, from a green perspective to let the participants know it's okay. Or if it's going to be colder or hotter, but not too hot, they can say, hey, they can put a yellow flag out, and they can say the race conditions are yellow. And that will ensure that people are maybe taking a little bit more time to run the race and not pushing themselves so hard. Or when we go into a red event, which will inform the runners that it's going to be potential hazardous conditions out there, and they need to plan appropriately. So in putting those together, we want to make sure that the runners are adequately preparing themselves to understand what the risks are with that event. And they can always find that on the IRM website as well. And finally, the last thing is evacuation and sheltering. Always having a plan for sheltering will ensure people know where to go if there's a major event that takes place or incident. And depending on the outdoor venue, it has to be taken into consideration on transportation timelines to get to that shelter. But evacuation, when we look at evacuation, we need to make sure that you have some kind of map available that identifies where your evacuation routes are. Your highest risk is when all the runners are in the start line. That's when all the runners are in one place at one time. So moving that many people, if there were an incident to take place inside a start line, is very important. And knowing which way they're going to go and having people educated to that point, which could be volunteers of saying you need to go north or you need to go south, will be very important. And then at the finish line, it's the same thing. Understanding where emergency exits are at all times for volunteers will ensure there's a coordinated effort to evacuate an area if there were an incident to take place. All these can be things to take into consideration when putting together a plan, and they don't have to be that long. And you can always find a lot more information out on the IRM website.